Look no further for the best gluten-free rolls recipe. These fluffy, airy, soft dinner rolls not only have a superior texture, but are easy to make and ready to serve in 1 hour. Hi, I'm Melissa Erdelak from the gluten-free website, Mama Gourmand, and today we are going to make gluten-free dinner rolls. My favorite thing about this recipe is how surprised everyone is by them. When I make them and I see non-gluten-free people reaching for seconds and thirds, and they have no idea they're gluten-free, that's a solid win in my book. They are very soft and squishy and airy because I use 2 simple ingredients and also of how they're mixed together. They start off with a roux, which do not be intimidated by that fancy word. It's really simple. So let's make your gluten-free life a success and not a hot mess. For the roux, we have 2 tablespoons of the gluten-free flour, 3 tablespoons of milk, and then 3 tablespoons of water. And then we just whisk that to combine over medium heat. It does not take long at all, maybe a minute or 2. It'll heat up and it'll become a very thick paste. And the reason why we do that is a roux is just pre-saturated flour, so it helps absorb the liquid in the rest of the ingredients. So when we add the milk and the egg and the butter and everything else, this kind of just gives a jump start on pre-saturating and absorbing all the liquid into the gluten-free flour, so we don't end up with like dense or gummy rolls. What you're looking for is it'll be very thick, and when you whisk it, you'll start to see how you see the bottom of the pan, so it's starting to hold shape. Then you are done. I want to mention before we begin that this rolls recipe has a really short rise time, and the reason that is because I started in a highly warmed oven. Before I start the recipe, I'll turn my oven to 200 degrees. Once it reaches 200 degrees, turn it off and then start making the rolls. It'll cool down to probably about 150, 125 degrees, and you're going to do the initial rolls rise in that warm oven for about 10 minutes. Let's start our rolls mixture. So I have 1.5 cups of gluten-free flour. I use cup for cup gluten-free flour, but you can use King Arthur or any flour that you prefer for this. You can read through the recipe comments on the recipe. I'll link to it below, and you can see what other gluten-free flours people have used. 3 tablespoons of potato starch. Now, this is one of the ingredients I recommend to give a softer texture. Instead of using all gluten-free flour, I'm replacing some of it with the potato starch because it's less dense and it just has a softer crumb to it. And then 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar, 1 tablespoon of psyllium husk powder. Now, this is the second ingredient. This also helps absorb moisture and makes the dough pliable so you can shape it into rolls. Otherwise, it would be like really sticky and hard to work with. So this just helps absorb all that liquid. And then 1 package of instant dry yeast. If you'd like to use active dry yeast, I would activate that in your warmed milk. Otherwise, I just use the instant yeast and mix it up with the dry ingredients. Then 1 teaspoon of baking powder and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to mix that to combine. And now we're ready to add the liquid ingredients. I have 3/4 of a cup of warm milk. I just heat this up in the microwave, and then I love this thing. This is like my favorite, an instant read thermometer. And you just want to make sure the milk's about like 110 degrees. Pour that in. Then I have 2 tablespoons of melted and cooled butter, 1 egg, and then you add the roux that we made. I cannot tell you how many times I've mixed this up and then I'm like, crap, I forgot to add the roux. So don't forget that. Put it like by your bowl so you don't forget. First, I mix it for about a minute for it all to come together, and then I'm going to increase the speed to about medium low and combine it for about 5 minutes to really work in all the ingredients and that gluten-free flour, and that's how you get rid of that grittiness in it too. So the dough at this point is going to be stiff, but it's still going to be slightly sticky, and that's fine. So now we're ready to shape. This is a little bit unconventional, not how you would make traditional yeast rolls, but the reason why I do this way is because I like the dough to be a little bit on the stickier side, so that means they're not going to be dry and crumbly once they're baked. Since they're a little stickier, we're going to do some things to make the dough manageable to work with. So I have a 1/4 cup measuring cup. I'm going to spray that with some nonstick spray, and then I will just scoop up the dough. You want about a 2-ounce portion, which is a little bit slightly less than a 1/4 cup. Then I have a silicone mat, but if you don't have that, you could just use a piece of parchment. And I'm gonna spray that with some nonstick spray. So this is just gonna be my work spot. Put this dough out. If you wanna get your hands a little greased, you can. And then you're just going to shape them into smooth balls. Now, if you see any cracks, so see how there's like a little bit of crack here, I recommend just kind of pinching that and smoothing it out, because with gluten-free dough, as it bakes, those cracks just become a little bit bigger. They don't meld together like regular yeast dough, but that's just a looks thing. If you don't care about that, then just let it be. So see, it's not hard to work with. You just need greased hands. And then I'm gonna transfer that to my greased 8x8 baking pan. As you're working with the dough, if this starts to not release as easily anymore, you just respray your cup as needed. And then to get the smoothest balls, I kind of like to pinch it smooth on top and then fold it under. Once we have all the rolls shaped, then I'm just gonna take a greased piece of plastic wrap, put it over the top, and then let it rise for 10 minutes in that warm oven. Take it out of the warm oven, just put it at room temperature for 20 minutes while your oven comes to 350, and then we're ready to bake. So our rolls are done rising, and now we're going to brush them with, I like salted butter. So I have 2 tablespoons of butter melted that I also stirred in a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and we're just gonna gently brush the tops. Be very gentle so we don't deflate the rolls before they're ready to bake. You won't need all of this butter, so save the rest of it. Once they come out of the oven, then we're gonna take that rest of that butter that we reserved and brush that over the tops. If you're using salted butter, I still recommend adding a little bit of salt to the melted butter. You kind of get like those like Parker House rolls taste from that saltiness. So I get a lot of questions about make ahead for these rolls. I recommend baking them in their entirety, cooling them down completely, and then wrapping them up and freezing them if you want to make ahead. They don't really work well if you want to do an overnight rise in the refrigerator. I just suggest making them, baking them, and then you can reheat them when you're ready to serve. They're best served slightly warm, so if they're room temp, just like pop them in the microwave for like 10 seconds and they are perfection. You can find the full printable recipe and the recipe linked below, and I will see you in the next video.